Hi there, this is Vladimir. Today is the 34th day of my commitment. I speak to the camera every day for 15 minutes, training my pronunciation, working on my language, learning how to avoid fillers, studying public speaking, grammar, learning how to speak with perfect grammar, and explain things which I'm studying. So, last few days I've been talking about 5 axioms of communication. Now I'm going to repeat the first few axioms and tell about the third one. So I won't go into details, it's just the names. The first axiom was you cannot not communicate. The second was every interaction has a content and a relationship dimension. So the third axiom is every interaction is defined by how interactants punctuate events. So what does it mean? Communication is continuous. Whenever there's a talk or a conversation, it doesn't have a starting point and end point. It has many different points, and it's difficult to say how it actually started. For example, when we have a dialogue and I say something, another person might say, listen, you said this and I responded in that way. But when I said something the first time, I said it because of something else. So there was probably this another person did something and I said something. And this person might say, oh, I did it because you said that. Or before I did it, you had said something else. Or you did something else. So interactions, communications, they always have they always go back in past, and it's hard to define when it started and where it's going to end. Look at the situation where there's let's say a mother and a child, and a mother puts on headphones and listens to music, and a child is screaming. And a mother may think that she responds to child's screaming in this way. She is annoyed and she puts on headphones to listen to music, to escape listening to her screaming child. And a child may see it in the opposite way. He may think, if a child can think, that his mother doesn't pay attention to him, and that's why he is screaming, and that she doesn't pay attention because she listens to music, whatever. The point is that in every situation we communicate with people, there are two or many different perspectives, and when we look at the situation and the conversation from our perspective, we have to take into account perspectives of the other people. Especially it's important in conflicts and in all situations when there's like fights between couples. For instance, a wife may say, for example, to her husband, no, you're an idiot, let's say, and he may stop talking to her, or he may engage in a fight, and he may think that it all started when she said that he was an idiot. But for her, she may see it in a different way. She may see that he did something stupid And after he did that, she said he was an idiot. And if she points it out, he may say, I did that because you said this before, or because you did something else. And eventually, again, it goes on and on. And so the axiom, every interaction is defined by how interactants punctuate events. So communication is ongoing. It's a dynamic process. There's no starting point. There's no end point. We always may track it back to something else. Well, yeah. So bloody silly. Okay, I think now I have two more axioms to tell, and then I'll go to the next chapter. I'm actually already bored with this silly exercise to explain every time what I read and trying to make some examples. From one side, it's funny. It helps me to understand better how to retell something, how to explain something. But from the other side, I don't like it, since there are many other things which I'd like to talk about. In my life, there were certain changes in recently, and I want to talk about them. And I always put it off and try to focus on something unrelated to my life. Well, probably now I have like almost 7 minutes to talk about my life, about what I'm doing right now. Last week was terrible, and I couldn't focus on anything in particular, and my mood was kind of frustrated, and I felt sadness and grief and all sorts of negative emotions. And now it's getting better. So, and I eventually found a few courses which I'd like to follow, few directions which I'd like to follow, and those directions are basically related to studying. So I started studying Wes Cecil lectures. Now I'm watching one lecture a day. For the last 4 days, I watched lectures about walking, conversations, writing letters, and leisure. It's like 4 days, sure. I also started watching lectures by Shelley Kagan, Philosophy of Death. I watched these lectures 3 years ago. At that time, I didn't understand the language well, so although I watched these lectures, I would say that I didn't remember almost anything from them, since I couldn't even understand 100% what this man was talking about. But I remember it was amazing lectures, and they inspired me back in the days, and I was really amazed by the quality of the lectures, and I had a wish to watch them again, and I always tried to focus on this task, but I never found time since like these 3 years. But now I have found time, and I'm gonna watch these lectures. Yeah, and probably I will talk about them a little bit later. Amazing lectures, Philosophy of Death. What else? I'm reading Shakespeare. I started reading it 4 days ago, a new book I took from the library, big book. Basically, there are tragedies dedicated to different kings. So the first tragedy was King John. The second one is the King Richard II, which I'm reading right now. I decided to abandon my research on public speaking, which I was doing for a couple of weeks. So I watched all US presidents, and some speeches from British prime ministers, a few speeches from some entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, one speech by Noam Chomsky, and now I think there were 40 speeches. The difficulty was that I had to write comments to every speech, and eventually I got bored with that, and I decided to abandon this activity since it's no longer important for me. So now I want to do something else, and 40 speeches, probably I'll come back to this research later. I mean, public speaking isn't important for me now. Even though I'm making videos every day, it's still not the thing I want to now focus my attention on. No, it's something different. I want to learn new things, other things, not public speaking. So that's why I stopped doing that. There were other things which I wanted to talk about, but now I forgot all of them. So I'm continue to write every day and study language, study argumentation, study punctuation. I'm gonna come back to my work with studying phrasal verbs and some definitions. Yeah, I'm also working on my speaking club. So there are certain topics, and now, for example, it's labor, and I'm thinking about labor. So how to build a conversation about this topic. I search information on the internet. I'm thinking about it. Yesterday I wrote down for about 30 adjectives related to labor. They're fancy adjectives. I'll probably memorize them all and tell at the beginning of speaking club like 30 adjectives. Manual labor, child labor, woman labor, unstoppable labor, slavish labor, whatever. So I have 3 minutes more. Yeah, my routine, my actions. Yesterday I was also studying emotions. I realized that it's very important to be able to express all kinds of emotions which I experience and learn how to express them better. So I know how to express like maybe 2, 3, 5 emotions, but I don't know how to express them all. For example, when I feel sad, it's very difficult for me to express sadness. When I feel excited, yeah, it's fine. I'm so happy, and I want to do this, I want to do that. It's so fascinating, so remarkable. But when I feel sad, I don't like to talk. And I know that the best way to let go any emotion is just to talk, just to express it through speech or through writing. And that's what I want to learn in the future, like how to express different emotions like anger, sadness, delight, whatever, frustration, trust. I'll probably even make some, fancy characters. Each character is going to represent a different type of emotions, and then I'm going to speak through these characters and see how it's going to work. But it's something that I'm interested in right now. Was there something else? I don't remember. Yeah, this exercise, speaking every day. As I said, I want to focus on my actions and talk more about what I'm doing, because it really helps me to put my thoughts together and to understand better what I'm doing. So the point is to just, I tell to the camera, I learn to talk about my actions, and then when I do these actions, I can do them better just because I know how to talk about them, how to think about them. Yeah, it's like speaking and thinking, there are almost no difference for me. When I speak, I usually think aloud. When I record videos, of course. Or when I communicate with people, there may be different styles of communication. But here, it's like thinking aloud. So just making conversation and learning how to express thoughts and emotions at any given moment without being embarrassed or shy or whatever. So now it's all, yeah, it's still a conversation. It was yesterday. It was one of the best days of last probably few weeks. At the end of the day, I told myself everything what happened during last week, and I used English, and it was so remarkable. I was able to use a rich vocabulary. My grammar was almost perfect, and I did it like in my mind. It was thinking, and I did it for maybe for an hour, and it was so interesting, so exciting. I was laying in bed and thinking about the last week, and I could remember every day, and I could describe what I was doing, why I was doing that. And I was thinking, oh, tomorrow probably when I have a conversation, when I have this dialogue with the camera, when I talk to the camera, I'll be able to reproduce it in the same way, and it's going to be so clear and magical. But now, again, there's big difference between thinking and speaking, and I want to learn how to speak as well as I may think. That's my new objective. Okay, now I need to finish it. So bye bye, see you next time.